So let's continue with our colours. So you can see the basic washes there, just the green and the sandy colour and a little bit for the sky. So we need a little bit of bright yellow for our cornfield. Put that in, soft transparent yellow. Anywhere you think is nice and bright that you need it. And then we're going to put in some of the base greens, so the nice bright greens that we can see. Now they're not necessarily the exact right green yet, but we're putting in some lovely colours so as that we can build on them. We can change them, but we can't make them darker. So, sorry, we can make them darker, but we can't make them lighter. So anything you want light, you've got to put in and protect or look after, or just remember not to paint over. So we did mention the violets. So maybe you want to put that little blue flower in somewhere, or a patch of blue flowers, just to remember they're there, the little wild violets. Okay, so let's move to a rigger now. We're going to make our greens a little bit darker, so adding phthalo blue. And then we're just going to go over while it's still wet. So some of it's dry, some of it's wet. Put in the darker ones. So part of the attraction of watercolour is that it bleeds. And you can add layer after layer. Sometimes when it's wet, sometimes when it's dry, or when part of the picture's dry. So remember the energy lines, how things are flowing up in the picture. Keep those lines moving. And remember your little bits of dark. You can go over those, you can add a few more. So we're not sticking to a lot of detail, we're getting an impression, like a code, just a mood. So it's not too detailed. The paint's very wet. I'm painting quite fast and fluid. I could bring a bit of sponging in if I wanted. So if I felt that the picture would benefit from sponging, I can put a bit of sponging in, because I get a different sort of texture. I get the leaves in my branches of my trees, get a little bit more detail down in the hedgerow. So you can see it building up, but it's still quite pale. So I'd wait for that to dry. I'm noticing that the sandy area is looking a little bit weak, so I'm going to go in there again with some more burnt sienna. And maybe a little bit of red in there, a bit of alizarin. Looks a bit more salmony. Mine's maybe a little bit brown. And a little bit pure yellow at the back there. If you think that's a bit strong, you can dab it away. Take it away. And I can see a little row of trees at the back there, so I'm going to put those in. And it's building up nicely, so keep going with your greens. I've got a bigger brush again now. I'm going in, putting in some more lines. Now if I feel an area is really dark, or I want to emphasize the bottom of the picture, then I'll paint upwards, leaving little dark areas. So have all your colours mixed if you can, so that you're not stopping and mixing. So I've got my dark green mixed. I did just quickly mix my burnt sienna there with my yellow. So you can see I'm not really putting a lot of detail in. I'm just building layers, building textures. And with each layer, it gives the painting a little bit more depth, a little bit more interest. Now if I really want to put detail in, I have to move to quite a small brush. So if I want the detail of the beautiful branches, so maybe I want this to look a little bit Japanesey, then I need control with a brush that allows me to put that amount of detail in. But this is the only time I'd use a small brush, because if you use a small brush, you make lots of strokes, you overwork things, and you get too much brush strokes in your picture, which looks like you've overworked it. So really try not to use a small brush, use a bigger brush. Lets you be a little bit more fluid. And if you want branchy detail, use your rigger. Make sure your paint's dry. You can even cheat and put in a few blobs, smaller vegetation with your rigger. It keeps you loose, keeps you free, keeps things flowing, and I'd be happy with that. Happy with the feel of that. Might want a tiny bit more sky. If it's too strong, just add water. These colours are transparent, they sit on top of each other beautifully, and that gives me an idea if I wanted to make this into a bigger painting, if I wanted to really take it on into something more detailed, then I know where I'd be going with it. I'd be happy with that.